ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the Civilian Boot Camp Success Summit. My name is Lance T. Walker, and I'm your host for today's fabulous, exciting conversation. I want to say hello to all the active duty, family members, and transitioning members of the veteran community, all 39 million members. Whether you're transitioning out of the military soon, or you've been transitioning for the last 40 or 50 years, this is the place where we go beyond tap and share with you all kinds of knowledge and information that you've got to have and the military could never share with you, even if they knew. We operate from the philosophy that your veteran status you've already earned, but civilian status still has to be learned. In other words, boot camp in, boot camp out. Makes sense, right? Today's guest is somebody that I truly admire, and you're going to enjoy this conversation, I promise you. This gentleman's name is Antwain Thomas. He is the first vice commander of Post 12 of the AMVETS organization in Washington, D.C. Antwain, how are you today?
I'm great, Lance. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. We're so happy to have you aboard. Thank you for taking part in this Civilian Boot Camp Summit. How'd you find out about it, and why did you decide to, spend some time with us today?
Well, I've seen Civilian Boot Camp, off and on through social media for a few years, but I really never thought of, coming on board. Never really knew what was going on. I just knew that it was an important initiative for our veterans.
Okay.
Ironically, how I found out about it is through one of our members, a life member with our AMVETS chapter. But this young lady is not in Washington, D.C. She actually, I met her on social media.
Oh, okay.
Papers. So we started talking. We shared, being in service together. She was actually in the Navy while I was actually talking with her. She served in Japan, I believe, on the USS Ronald Reagan, if I'm not mistaken. A carrier that was out of Yokosuka, Japan. So we had that in common, so we started talking. She has the business, military crowdfunding platform. We became friends very quickly and kind of embarked some knowledge about how to flesh her business out and how to use our Vetrepreneur platform that we work with to kind of help her out. So I think that kind of got the ball rolling. And next thing you know, she reached out to you, I believe, and the rest is history.
Outstanding. Yeah, it's all about collaboration and teamwork. Put the right leadership in place, and you certainly exemplify that. Now, did I hear you say that you served in the Navy?
Yes, I didn't serve as long as Vivian. I served only 4 years, but I was a information systems technician.
Okay.
Standard IT designation, but in the Navy, when you're in IT, you're not just sitting at a desk. You're on an aircraft carrier, you're traveling the world, so the entire command that you're at, as well as the entire Navy kind of top ship shape to make sure that all is protected. But I got a lot of opportunities to do a lot of things that IT and the Navy just didn't get opportunity to do.
Okay. All right. So that sounds like you had a pretty intricate and exciting career. How do you attribute that time to your success as a business leader? How did those two come together?
Well, this was a great transition in my life because I was just getting out of high school. I was already attending college. So, actually, give a little background. I didn't really think about going to the military when I was just going to college because I was on a jazz scholarship actually to go to perform on stage. So I was a jazz musician for many years. I went to school, and my school was paid for through, performing on stage, touring, and playing saxophone and clarinet. So that was kind of my life for a very long time. So I did the whole transition out of high school to community college in Cleveland, Ohio, by the name of Cuyahoga Community College. So that was kind of my opportunity to give back to the world through music. So that was something I continued to pursue. After that, I kind of got a little restless, so I transferred to another university down the street called Cleveland State University.
Okay.
So I started exploring not only music, but I started getting into communication, started learning computers, self-teaching myself, because that's in the late 80s, early 90s, that was the transition of music and technology was just getting, so that was something that I really gravitated towards. So I figured, I wanted to do something more with my life. Didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I was getting kind of restless in Cleveland. So I decided to kind of do some research to see what the military could do for me to expand my horizons. And the Navy, through my research, did a lot of research and development for a lot of the technology that we use today, including social media and things of that nature. So I decided to enlist in the Navy in 2000, the summer of 2000, actually. So I left school in the middle of my training to pursue a career in technology through the Navy. So that was a big transition for me, but really started to really unfold and unwind when I got my first assignment to a dream assignment, which is to go to Japan. So Japan was on my list ever since I could ever remember. As a little kid, Japan, and that was offered, and I decided, well, let's see how this works. So living in Japan kind of changed my life.
How so?
A different, because living in Cleveland, Ohio, not really traveling to many places other than Canada, but everyone goes to Canada.
It's pretty close.
Yeah, so I figured I wanted to venture out a little further than Canada, and Japan, I really kind of gravitated towards the people. The military in Japan was a significant transition for me because it allowed me to understand how people are connected in technology and communication. That's something we briefly talked about because of my stint in radio and things of that nature. Being in entertainment, radio, it's all about communication and how you communicate to the world. So the Navy gave me that opportunity to use those skills that I learned in the military, including technology and communicating with people, Japan, having my perspective on the world. So I tell a lot of my friends, a lot of my colleagues today that if it wasn't for me serving in Japan specifically, I would not have the world understanding and approach that I have today, because Japan is exposed to culture. It opens you up to how you look at the world, and I attribute a lot of that by being exposed to that culture and making friends. And one of my first stints of getting into the business realm was in Japan. So Japan kind of fostered that environment where there's very few restrictions. As a military member, I was able to get into technology a lot more, considering the jurisdiction there. There's many technology that come from Japan, so I just kind of used the opportunity to network, connect with people there, and I got shown the area, and I decided, well, something that I really want to do. So I started my very first company, which is still in progress to this day in Japan. So if it wasn't for that, I think my backbone would have taken a lot longer to develop.
Wow. So you said the company's still in operation today. What business are you in?
Well, there's a business plan that I've been working on for a very long time. I'm about to get off its feet. It's called Legion Incorporated. So it's an idea that I did not start myself. Actually, a few Marines actually brought the idea to me. One fair day in the morning, basis, we would like to have a conversation with you because we think there's something that the military could benefit from, and we want to present you with an opportunity to be our CEO. So I was like, well, our CEO, a company I never even heard of, but at that time, it never existed. It was just an idea, but it was an idea that was to unite the military and what we do as a combat unit globally. So that very first idea that was brought to me, where I influenced a very large population of the military in Japan to be able to put everything that I've ever done in my life, everything I've ever done in the military, together under one corporate umbrella. So today it's ready to go. It took many years to develop the relationships, which started in the military. So, within the next year or so, it will be up and running. But there's other things that I've done in radio and entertainment, in the finance world, veteran entrepreneurship. Those were the necessary things that I felt was necessary to put in place before I launched this idea. But in the process, I've been brought into other professional capacities, including AMVETS and various other business circles. It's going to make it a stronger case to get it up and running. So that was a leverage point in my life that kind of started my business career.
Outstanding. So you don't just preach business, you do business.
Yes, every day. There's not a day where I'm not trying to seek out people, help people, and help me. Because if you're the smartest person in the room, then you got a problem.
It's probably a problem. Exactly. Love it. A lot of people don't have the self-esteem to surround themselves with, people who are more intelligent than they are in their areas of specialty. But that's certainly a requirement.
And let's not get it twisted, because I wasn't always like that. But I think living in a foreign country that far away from home, you can't just plane and go back home, because for one, it's expensive. It puts you in a situation where, yes, you're in the military. The military's taking care of everything. Yeah, well, the military can only tell you what to do so many times out of the day.
Right.
you have to have your own thinking cap on, and it forced me to navigate the foreign environment as well as the domestic being on base. So that's something I had to teach myself, unteach myself, and reteach myself to build myself, to build that. Because to be an entrepreneur, no matter what you want to do, you have to truly have that gusto every day you get up. You are the one in the morning, even though you have a taskmaster from time to time, which I do from time to time depending on what I'm doing. Ultimately, you have to decide who my taskmaster is and how do I go about getting those goals. So it's a very difficult road, especially for transitioning military.
Okay.
So I viewed my transition. I taught myself how to transition, and that sounds weird to people when they hear that. Like, well, how can you teach yourself to transition? I'm like, well, when you're in a situation and you hear about other stories of people losing their records, people stranded in a foreign country, which I spoke about that. I can tell you later down the road. But I was in a very unique situation in Japan that I had to learn how to navigate, and I taught myself on what I needed to know to transition from how to register for benefits, getting their record, never allowing the military to keep your record, demanding to have the record in your possession. So when you leave, the most important thing that they should teach you, and they don't teach everyone this, is you march into that personnel office and request your record, because it's yours.
Okay. I had a little bit of interference. You said walk into the personnel office?
Yeah, walk into the personnel office and demand your service record. I tell everyone that. They're like, you can do that? I'm like, yes. Right? When people hear about, I didn't know you could do that. I'm like, that's one of the barriers, which I believe is, one of our conversations we're going to have. One of the main, what we do and how we pursue the transition phase. There's really a lot of resources for the transition phase, because you have tasks, you have all these different programs that are needed, but they're old on the book transition. There's very little interaction, there's very little follow-up. So I decided to ensure that before I left the military, whenever that would be, I would ensure that I had every single record of mine, everything that I've ever done in the military, extracurricular or on the job, I made sure that I had access to that. So I had to teach myself the whole entire process so I could reteach that to others. And that's what entrepreneurship is all about, is teaching yourself and teaching others. And I think one of the main platforms for this program is how can we, teach one another how to be a stronger unit.
I could not have said it better. Wow, that was eloquent. Thank you. You mentioned AMVETS. I was listening very closely to what you were saying, and I understand that you're heavily involved in advocating for the veteran population there in D.C. with the AMVETS organization. Can you expound a little bit about on that role and how it helps you? And because I hear what you're doing. You have a pattern, I see, of pulling things together in order to make a greater whole for the next step. So can you expound a little bit about that, how that role in your capacity helps you do what you do?
Sure. So AMVETS, it's a chartered organization, one of many VSOs that was chartered by Congress in 1947, which around the time that the GI Bill, the original Montgomery GI Bill, was actually just getting Congress. So AMVETS for the time has been that neutral veteran service organization that accepted all theaters of service.
Okay.
Of what service you were, because we have many other VSOs that are specific to that one theater, but we were one of the only ones that accepted all veterans.
Okay.
Today, we still accept all veterans, no matter where they come from, what issues they have. We accept pretty much everyone on board. So, as a member of them, a life member, we have the ability through membership to advocate for veterans, because AMVETS has relationships within the veteran community and the federal government. They come to advise Congress on things that plague the veteran community. And I get questions all the time about, well, I thought Purple Heart and DAV, don't they do the same thing? It's a fair question, right? Well, we do some things because we all represent veterans.
Right.
But however, AMVETS has a very unique platform where we kind of understand a little bit more about the challenges across all branches of the military. Right. Whether you're a Coast Guard, whether you're in the Army, Navy, even the National Guard. So my position as a local chapter. So Post 12 is a local chapter within the Department of D.C.
Okay.
So to regionalize, right? So every state has their own department. And there's so many chapters within that department, within that state.
Got it.
Right. So being in Washington, D.C., we are one of the most, most decorated posts because we do a little bit more outreach than across the country. So with my position and with our officers, we kind of reach out to not only our region, but we reach out to other posts across the country, whether they're in AMVETS or not. And we traverse those boundaries to help veterans with everything from, veteran benefits, how to register with the VA, how to get mental care, all the way down to mental health and, educational resources, because veterans want to go to school. They don't process of how to do that. Anyone can go to the VA website and read, but understanding the pitfalls are and the challenges, because every veteran has a different challenge.
Right.
And it's hard to translate to the VA how those challenges are restricting veterans from getting the assistance they need.
Wow, I'm sure most of our audience has no idea that AMVETS is that involved and active as a connecting organization.
Yes, and as our post, we're one of the most active posts in the entire Washington, D.C. district. So our social media is very, very, very active. We work with a lot of the legislators on Capitol Hill, and usually a local chapter doesn't do. That's not their typical function, right? Typical function is to make sure your membership is up and sure that, you know, you're taking care of your local constituency. But we decided a small post, we were on paper posts for a while, so we decided to take that post and make it something that not only young professionals and, you know, younger transitions and military members, but we wanted to reach across the board, excuse me, across all generations of veterans, because that's another stigma that a lot of engages, you know, the younger and the older. You know, we decided, well, that needs to come together because the transition of the old guard to the new guard is something that we personal interest in. So we want to bring everyone into our network here in DC, even if they weren't part of our post or even in our state or jurisdiction. We wanted to make everyone was welcome and let everyone know more about AMVETS, because a lot of people hear AMVETS but doesn't understand the role in which AMVETS plays.
Right. And it definitely sounds like you guys have a perspective across a wide range of age groups and services and all that. So based on that wealth of experience and information, what do you think are the greatest barriers to transition for our military members and veterans that are trying to get into the civilian workforce? And what kinds of avenues are available for veterans to provide for a successful transition?
Well, that's a passion piece, especially for what we do at AMVETS. So, I think the two major barriers that I know I went through and I had to, you know, navigate the political channels. The one thing I believe is the education piece, because I know we discussed and I've read on the Civilian Boot Camp website and in the Facebook. There's lots of concern on what does a veteran or transitioning military member need to know to acquire the civilian sector, because it's the first time that a member is transitioning out. You know, there's you get that one transition, and that first time you don't know what to expect. Right. So the number one thing is education. And I have a very good understanding of that, because I've actually, at my university, I attend George Washington University in Mississippi. That's where I get to meet a lot of the issues of transitioning military members, because you have people who didn't know they were qualified for GI Bill. People didn't, you know, that they needed to register with the VA to use those benefits, and some people just didn't even know that those benefits, they were entitled to benefits at all.
Outstanding.
So
you're starting from the base with a lot of these folks.
Most definitely. So, you know, as a GW current student that actually worked in our benefit office, I got every doctorate all the way down to undergraduate and people transitioning and transferring on an associate's degree. So I actually had to walk veterans that are attending George Washington University or even thinking about what do they need to do to take classes. So I had to walk them through. I had to get to know who they were, where are they at? You know, are they married? Do they have spouse? Do they have children? You know,
why does all that matter?
Well, it matters because the program that they want to take in the region, 10 classes, depending on if they're still active duty, because we also deal with active duty as well as reservists and completely transitioned out veterans. So the geography and the data matters, because we need to know as much about that information, because the VA needs to put a package together so that the VA can we can build a VA for tuition. So we do that. They need to know as much detail about the service member as possible, and there's certain restrictions on benefits depending on if you're active duty, reservist, or completely transitioned out. So based on that information, it determines what type of educational benefits that service member is actually going to be able to utilize. And the veteran doesn't know that, the ins and outs of that. So we have to also do our research on whether or not the program that they want, do they meet the bare minimum requirements to actually have us build the tuition, and will they get 100% of the tuition paid, 80%, 60%, 50%, right? That's where the main issue matters, because we need to know exactly what they have at their disposal, so we know their current situation, so we know how to apply to the VA and actually fight for them on behalf of the VA to say that, okay, this veteran has XYZ, he didn't really know, he's almost out of eligibility, which becomes a big problem too, because veterans out of the military for so long, or they didn't really, they were qualified for that benefit, nor did they register. So most people who get out, they only maybe have a couple years on the clock to use that benefit. So that becomes a real, for that veteran, they have to pay for their education. So that was a big challenge for me. I had to learn on the fly. I had to do my own research to figure out how that actually works, and then also how we actually do the work at our university on behalf of those veterans who are actually seeking to go to law school or be an accountant or, you know, be a banker or whatever they're looking to do. Each type of program has a different requirement for what that veteran needs to actually have us bill the VA for that tuition.
Okay.
In school. So I think that's the number one barrier is education, because as we both know, the less education you have, you could be very smart in what you do in the military. It's a completely different transition piece depending on the industry you're going to go into, because a lot of what we do in the military, it does translate into the workplace, but that understanding of the resume, the understanding of where they are professionally, soft skills versus hard skills, a lot of those soft skills, you know, can translate into the real world, but the hard skills that we've learned, you know, you're not always going to be gassing up an F-14 Tomcat,
right?
You know, at an office, right? So, although, you know, the aerospace industry does translate, it's how does that member translate their skills so that the job opportunity that they're seeking actually is a fit, not only for the veteran, but for that employer. And that's something we also do in my personal network of friends. I reach out to the employers and I get them to understand that this is a challenge that veterans have. And employers are actually being taught, speaking of education, employers actually are not going to events to learn what they need to know, because a lot of employers want to and the combat warrior, right, or the military member to the degree of what they need to know, because they bring a lot of baggage, they bring a lot of skills, and the employer and a lot of that sometimes. So that's something also assists veterans with, is reaching out to the educational institutions as well as the people who regulate those policies at the federal level all the way down to the administrator level on how a veteran should be greeted, treated, and understood. Because a lot of times veterans get kind of pushed away because they don't understand politics, and then the employers also push them away from quality candidates because they don't understand of veterans in the military.
The value of what they're actually being offered.
Exactly. So that's something that we put at the top of our list. And then, of course, a big heartstring of ours, especially as an AMVETS organization, is veteran homelessness. And that's something that is getting better, but we constantly fight every day to ensure that there are programs that are available not only at the DC level, but nationwide. So we work with our national commander, Commander Polk, Marion Polk. He's our new elected national commander. So he presides over all of the states and all of the chapters of AMVETS across the country.
Oh, okay.
So he's a Coast Guard veteran, and he's old school, down south. We love our national commander because he really cares about every veteran. We just meeting with the national commander, and he let us know that whatever we need as a post to get the message out nationally,
Mm-hmm.
let our know, and we will be there standing ready and willing to help whatever veteran we need. So homelessness is a really, really big problem, and we also bring a lot of other elements to the table,
Mm-hmm.
services that bring our own personal business relationship. So AMVETS is a strong unit, but
Mm-hmm.
individually, through my network and a lot of the other networks of the business people I know,
Mm-hmm.
I also put packs together to ensure that AMVETS also has those resources, because you can never have too many resources,
Mm-hmm.
and veterans need as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So entrepreneurship track is very important. It's something else that is also a barrier, because there's so many different skills that our veterans have
Mm-hmm.
that track perfectly within the space of business ownership. It's just the veteran doesn't know how to go about navigating that, because there's so many different channels to be in business.
Mm-hmm.
And I also barrier, because if they don't have the fundamental understanding and there's not someone teaching the veteran, because they're not teaching that before you get out.
Of course not.
The last thing they're teaching you is, this is how you get into business.
Right. If anything, they're hoping you decide to sign on for some more time.
That's correct. So maybe that's something that could also help navigate that hurdle, is work with the DOD and work with those units at that level.
Mm-hmm.
So the transition package should include that, because there are federal guidelines that are already on the books, that are already federal laws that have been signed into law already, that actually guarantee veterans a piece of the contracting pie.
Really?
Veterans don't even. Yeah. So I don't know how much you know about set-asides.
Not much.
There's a mandate at the congressional level where the VA, if you're registered as a veteran-owned business or a
Service disabled.
Service disabled, correct. You through the VA, once you get approved, and it's not a complicated process. It's just you have to know the guidelines. But once you have a good understanding, and there's many people that we work with that can teach veterans that, set aside is very important, because what that is the percentage of contracts that are awarded to a service or a veteran-owned business that once they get the contract, the federal government has to pay that veteran-owned business that percentage of the set-aside proceeds before anyone else receives that contract.
Wow.
So veterans don't know that, right? People who have been in the contract game, they're aware of it, and they are navigate that. But the typical veteran that has, because I know a lot of veterans that have registered businesses that are recognized by the VA, but they don't understand that there's money that gets recycled back into appropriations every year that never even gets, because that money just sits there. And how many people really are teaching veterans on, yes, by the way, there's a whole bunch of money waiting for you, but since you haven't registered, you want to have access to it. No one's apprising, at least not on a grandiose scale. Doing that. That's something.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's something through our AMVETS chapter that's also unique. Is we have a real diverse and vast array of resources where we actually have access to every contracting vehicle, from GSA, EA, to pretty much any type of sole source, which is also very, very unique platform of contracting that are only given out to a very minute, small percentage. But we are in a position to offer veterans an opportunity to hire them as subcontractors and prime contractors, depending on what type of RFP or contract that's actually on tap that the government's looking to buy products for. From weapons, right, to the defense industry, all the way down to pencils and pens. There's so many different types of contracts. The medical industry, VA, the GSA. I mean, the GSA is the largest contracting vehicle in the world. right? They buy and sell literally everything from real estate all the way down to military bases that are being taken offline. They're also selling those too.
Wow.
Right? Right. So, but people really don't know, like, you can do that. I'm like, yes, but you have to have the relationship, and that's figure that connect.
Yeah, you don't just jump in and start buying a military base.
No, you don't, yes, but you can start at a very, very fundamental level, but it starts with having the relationships of understanding how to have your business, have it registered in the VA, so that the VA recognizes and certifies you as a veteran-owned business or service-disabled business, so that you can actually participating. So what we're trying to do right now is we're trying to use our contracting vehicle access to actually help veterans. So it basically comes down to, do we have the staff to actually staff that? So those are right. So if you have like a administrative, contract where I don't know, you go out, you buy X amount of supplies to a military base. It could be because whatever the government is looking to be serviced for, as long as you can actually find those qualified veterans that actually have experience in that area, which that becomes the actual, I think, one of the barriers that we can navigate is if you find those veterans that have those skills, then we can bid on projects, put RFPs out, get awarded those contracts, and then we can actually tell the federal government we have XYZ number of veterans that are qualified, ready to service that contract. So really, with that, we can actually go out, bid on the same projects that Boeing and all these other major companies, they have the and sole source and bring all those contracts into house. It would be great to have an independent organization that at the local level and provide resources to veterans. So we try to use that entrepreneurship hat to the contracting realm, because through that platform, many other opportunities are available, because there's always organizations that are looking to hire veterans. So how great would it be to have a local chapter of AMVETS that has a very, small, officer platform, but we have the same ability to actually go out and bid on the same contract that the large, the Booz Allens of the world, and even the DOD. We could actually bid on DOD contracts if we have the right veterans that actually can staff those contracts. So those are things that we are privileged to have access to. We all work with all the presidential service candidates, military service members that actually work at the White House, that work on behalf of the POTUS and the FLOTUS and the entire executive branch. We actually have relationships with every administration going back to Eisenhower. So we are into that database from Colin Powell all the way up to present day. So those are our relationships as well, and we like to use those relationships so that we can introduce veterans to those who they share, people who they worked with. Because some of those veterans that got out today, they worked under those administrations, but they didn't get an opportunity to actually meet the people they actually work for.
Isn't that something?
So how to be to meet Colin Powell and have a sit down with him and say, hey, General Powell, it's a pleasure to meet you. You didn't get an opportunity to meet me while I was on chief of staff. I'm PVC, blah blah blah. Would it be okay to kind of your time? So those relationships through our network gives us the opportunity to make introductions, and that's another way to get veterans employed as well as develop their own network, is to introduce to relationships that they may not have to tap into. But that's another thing. Her and that post, which is unique, because not posts are willing to do that because they go with the very vanilla way of fine. You know, every post has their own way of doing things, but we figured cannot offer as many resources to veterans, whether they're in our immediate region or not. It gives us an opportunity to meet more veterans, especially the various different services, legal services, accounting services, you know, people who are being divorced from their spouse in the military. That barrier for veterans too, because they don't know the ins and outs of asset protection and protecting their finances. Something else work with veterans is how to set up their portfolios, how to work with those who do care about their financial future, so things like that. So I also work in that field outside of AMVETS, which I also bring into AMVETS, so that veterans can, even if they're working, even if they have a good, you know, place to be, you can never be in a much better situation and always plan for the future.
That's right.
So that's something for veterans as well, which is something I'm willing to offer our 39 million plus veterans across the country and the world.
Excellent. So now I heard you mention that they didn't have to be, the veterans don't have to be in your immediate area. And that was exactly the question I was about to ask you. So folks from around the country can actually work with, what did you say, was Chapter 12?
Chapter 12, yeah. So post 12, that's how Vivian is from Georgia, right? So she signed to post 12, and she's not even a resident of DC. So you don't have to of that area department of AMVETS to actually be a member of that post. Outside of that. Yeah, so that's not a restriction. That's an open membership. You just have to ensure that, you know, the person who comes in, you know, agrees to, you know, being part of the post. So as long as they agree to it, they can actually be a part of our post. So Vivian is actually our very out of market member, life member. Of that.
Well, I guess I'm just going to have to be the second. That is amazing. I had no idea.
Yeah, and that's something unique to us as well, because certain chapters of other VSOs, I think there are restrictions on institutions, their chart and their constitution. But our constitution have that restriction, and we're about to amend our constitution to allow more things to happen within our post. So we're revving up right now to put together a couple fundraisers, which one is a national fundraiser, one's a regional fundraiser, but it's also something veterans, no matter where they are, they can come to Washington, D.C. to meet other veterans that are going to be part of our events that we're putting on as well.
Extraordinary. Okay. I want to go back just a minute, Antwain, to kind of pick up on something and make sure I have the right picture here. You were talking about being able to basically advocate on contracts and be able to compete with other larger organizations. Now, the picture that I have in my mind is that the AMVETS acts as the general contractor and the veterans are subcontractors. Do I have that right?
Yeah, so AMVETS as a local chapter, we're using another veteran that is on the network. He's a partner of ours. His organization will be the contracting company. Okay. Right. That company will use AMVETS will be an actual partner that will be listed on the contracting paperwork. So we would actually be the one facilitating in hiring the veterans to post the code. And our partner, registered as a service-disabled veteran-owned business, will actually are kind of in the front company that will bid on the contract. AMVETS post would be the actual entity, to be the in between the contracting company and sub and prime contractor. So we'll
Oh man, talk about leveraging relationships.
Oh yeah,
that is outstanding. Now, do you find that veterans as candidates for things like this, are veterans particularly suited to be business owners? I mean, we know that upwards of 30% of veterans, you know, at some point do attempt to run their own businesses. But with the skills that they have and the backgrounds that they have, do you guys actually provide resources or training, or obviously you think that this is a viable workforce?
Yes. So we work with other partners who are veterans who own their own contracting companies.
Okay.
And they become on contracts as well. And they also subcontract out with other companies. So we have the relationship where we can bring people in and actually have forums that have a speaker come in that, run through the arduous journey of, the political side, the financial side. Because when you sign up to be a veteran-owned business, contract, they're going to go through your life with a fine-tuning comb.
Right.
It's something we're not unfamiliar with, but when it comes buying and selling with the federal government, they need to know that you have the capacity and capability to perform.
Okay, so they're going to vet you thoroughly.
That's correct. But here's the good news. The gentleman who is that's going to be providing our contracting bidding process, he's also he worked directly with Bill Clinton. He was his executive chef for 8 years in the White House. So
okay.
Really good. So if you need any presidential chefs at any event, that's the word or term.
Outstanding.
We have access to AMVETS-DC. Every White House butler and chef that's ever served in the White House since Eisenhower, we have access to all of those guys too.
Wow.
So
that's something I bet a lot of event planners don't even think about.
Oh no, because what better than have your very own serve you?
Exactly. Man.
Right? So we're really good friends. His name is Martin Mangello.
Okay.
He's very, very great guy. He was a senior chief petty officer, retired, just got out of the military 4 or 5 years ago. But he's a real guy, and we've developed a really good relationship, and we will be working with him to start bidding on contracts. And as far as the qualifications, since we have all those registrations under our own umbrella, and Jello, we'll be able to go out in the world and find those candidates and see who they are, what backgrounds they have, and we'll be able to vet them, because since we'll be the ones bidding on the contract, as long as we service the contract as it's stipulated in the RFP, once we are awarded that contract, then we can make the determination whether that's qualified to service the contract or not.
Okay. Nice. Now, we've been told that in the process of contracting with the federal government, you're looking at an 18 to 24 month period. Does an association with AMVETS in the capacity that you just described actually shorten that time period?
Well, it all depends on the contract and how long it takes to have that contract awarded. So certain contracts have certain time frames on when that contract can be awarded or when it is going to be awarded.
Okay.
So there may be a shorter window depending on teams, right? So if it's something that requires a longer vetting process, the DoD has to award security clearance, that nature, takes long. But if it's something that logistically needs to be put out, and all they need is to know that a contracting organization has the ability to staff the contract. For some contracts, you don't need a lot of staff. You may need 10 people. Some contracts only 3 or 5 people. It just really depends on the nature of the contract and, of course, the budget. So obviously, the lower the budget of the contract, the less vetting and the less, requirements that are needed. So if you have an $18 million contract, right, to process paperwork versus $100 million or more contract, might require a little bit more time to actually process and get that money awarded, because that's what appropriations. So it just depends. But that's why your selection process on what you bid, because since you have the capacity, to bid on any schedule we want. It's really up to which contract we want to bid on.
Very nice. Okay. So whatever the time period involved, it definitely sounds like you guys help make the process a whole lot easier.
Well, it's especially easier when you have a partner that's also a veteran, also a Navy veteran, that's in your network, that actually understands and has those relationships. So through those relationships, AMVETS Post 12 inherits those relationships.
Outstanding. Ladies and gentlemen, you spent the last hour with Mr. Antwain Thomas with the AMVETS Veteran Service Organization. A totally unexpected and pleasant approach to the idea of running your own business. Antwain, you've got an angle that is unmatched, unparalleled, and I'm so delighted that you're bringing this unique perspective to the Civilian Boot Camp today.
Well, it's a pleasure to even be considered, and it's an honor, and thank you.
Thank you, sir. All righty. Well, stand by, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have a 20 to 30-minute Q&A session live with Antwain. And so get your questions ready and be prepared. Now, take a look at the form directly below this video, and you'll be able to download Antwain's gift to you today and get yourself started on the path to becoming a subcontractor and partner with the AMVETS organization and go after those government contracts. Once again, Antwain, you've got the Q&A coming up, but I want to thank you for doing this interview with us and sharing your great wealth of knowledge with our audience today.
Thank you, Lance. It was a pleasure.
Cried in your weakness, or carry it like Jesus, or just wonder where the peace is. The heart's beautiful, the brain's where the beast lives. All these names on a train, and I'm trying to put my piece in. I paint for days till my pain's raised. The spirit in my lyric phrase, and when it plays, let the fire blaze. In remembrance of the higher plane, I came dark, dark days. Come and gon' feel my heart, life fades. Come and gon' feel that arc I pain, just to gon' spill this truth. Knowing truth was reality, and lost in the challenge to see what was out the window. You was pretending, and I had the info, and we was just listening. All with my kinfolk, hear me hearly, here with a cliff's low. Man goes crows, over we fields of gold. Forget everything you know, be the secret hidden right under nose. Go ahead and seek everything you want. Everything you want, you already got. This is just a secret I'm mixing in the pot. Everything you want, you already got. This be the secret mixed in the pie, yeah. Everything you want, you already got. Everything you want.